All right, wrestling fans, you asked for it. Time to take a deep dive into all the crazy stuff going down in the world of wrestling right now.
Yeah, things are really heating up.
I mean, where do we even begin? This past week was insane title changes, rivalries exploding left and right,
Mm.
and just enough backstage drama to make your head spin.
And it's all happening across multiple federations, too.
Oh yeah, we've got NXG, MATB, QLW. They're all delivering some must-see action.
It's like every time you turn around, there's another shocking twist or jaw-dropping upset.
And speaking of shocking twists, let's talk about Angelo King. This guy's been making waves ever since he jumped ship from NXG, right?
Huge news when that happened.
Now he's leading his own faction, the High Rolling Soldiers, HRS, and they're quickly becoming a major force to be reckoned with.
They're definitely shaking things up,
Mm.
especially in MATB.
Yeah, but things got really interesting when King started talking like he was already part of HRS, even before he officially joined. Like he was calling the shots and making promises on their behalf.
Well, you got to remember King's personality. This guy is a natural leader, maybe a little too eager sometimes, but he's got that charisma and that drive to be at the top.
Right, and that's what led to that whole blow-up in the chat. All hell broke loose.
Oh, yeah. Accusations flying, tempers flaring. It was a full-blown digital brawl.
I mean, they didn't hold back.
Mm.
And you could tell there were some real tensions bubbling under the surface, like King's vision for HRS wasn't quite lining up with what some of the other members had in mind.
From what I saw in the chat logs, King wants to go all in on this rivalry with MATB, especially against the Elite. He's talking about taking them down, shaking up the established order, really making a statement.
It makes sense, considering King's history.
But some of the HRS guys seem a little hesitant, like they're not ready to go to war just yet.
Right. So we could be looking at some internal conflict brewing within HRS, a power struggle right from the start.
It wouldn't be the first time we've seen that kind of drama play out in a wrestling faction, that's for sure.
True enough. But hey, while King is over there stirring up trouble, over at NXG, we had a major upset with Fingers becoming their new champion.
That last man standing match against DMP was brutal. Absolutely brutal.
I mean, they beat the hell out of each other.
Huh?
And you could tell DMP was not expecting Singers to push him that hard.
I think DMP underestimated Finger's resilience, his willingness to just keep coming back for more no matter how much punishment he took.
And that's what makes Fingers so dangerous. His style is just relentless. He doesn't let up.
Oh, yeah, and that dirty fingers maneuver, he uses the mandible claw to the jaw. It's as effective as it is painful to watch.
Just brutal. But hey, it got him the win, right?
Exactly. It's all about strategy and exploiting weaknesses. DMP is a powerhouse. He relies on his strength and size. But Fingers, he finds those openings, those little cracks in the armor, and he exploits them ruthlessly.
And now, Fingers is headed to the Elimination Chamber to defend his title against 5 other wrestlers, including Butch Duncan, who actually snagged 2 spots in the match.
Talk about a dominant performance. He won his qualifying match and then went on to win the second chance gauntlet, too. You don't see that very often.
I mean, that's a statement right there. Butch Duncan is coming for that championship belt, and Fingers better be ready for a fight.
Speaking of fighting, we got to talk about the Elite. Still at the top of their game in MTB, racking up points and holding on to those championships.
They're like a well-oiled machine, just dominating the competition. But that kind of success can be a double-edged sword.
Oh, absolutely. The pressure to stay on top, the internal conflicts that can arise, the constant threat from other factions trying to take them down, it can all take its toll.
Especially in a federation like MATB, where loyalty is a fleeting thing and alliances can shift in an instant.
Right. You always have to watch your back in MPB. You never know who might turn on you.
So the Elite might be on top right now, but they can't afford to let their guard down. The Niceties, the Cabessers, the Purifiers, the Militia, the Deleters, they're all lurking in the shadows, waiting for their chance to strike. Yeah.
It's like a pack of wolves circling a wounded animal, just waiting for that moment of weakness.
And let's not forget DMP, fresh off his loss to Fingers. How does he bounce back from this? What's his next move?
That's the big question, isn't it? DMP is used to being in control, being the top dog. Now he's got to figure out how to regain that momentum, how to reassert his dominance.
He's at a crossroads for sure.
What?
But hey, before we go too deep into that, let's switch gears for a second and talk about Marcho Madness. This is the big one, the King of the Ring style tournament everyone's been waiting for.
Oh, yeah. This is going to be huge. 9 separate 8-man tournaments, all leading up to a final showdown. 64 superstars battling it out for glory.
And you know this is going to be a breeding ground for upsets, for those unexpected moments that make these tournaments so unpredictable.
Exactly. We could see some major shakeups in the rankings, new stars emerging, established veterans falling from grace. It's all up for grabs.
And that's what makes it so exciting. You never know who's going to come out on top.
It's like the Wild West of wrestling.
Yeah.
Anything can happen.
And that's just part one, folks. We've got so much more to unpack, so stay tuned for part two, where we'll dive deeper into some of the key players and events that are shaping the future of wrestling.
We'll be back after a quick break.
Don't go anywhere. This deep dive is just getting started.
Buckle up, wrestling fans. It's about to get wild. So we were talking about Fingers right before the break.
His win was something else.
Well, think about it. His journey to the championship is like a wrestling fairy tale, you know what I mean?
It really is. This guy came out of nowhere, and now he's holding the NXT Championship belt.
He didn't have any big name recognition, no major sponsors, no hype machine behind him.
He just had heart, determination, and that dirty fingers maneuver.
Yeah, let's talk more about that for a second, because that mandible claw is no joke.
Oh, it's brutal, man. I mean, every time he locks it in, I can't help but cringe.
You can practically hear the crowd gasp.
But it's effective. I'll give him that.
Oh, incredibly effective. And you know why it works so well against a guy like DMP?
Well, DMP relies on his power. Right, those big slams, the brute force.
Exactly. He overwhelms his opponents with sheer strength.
So how do you counter that? How do you beat a guy like DMP?
You take away his strength. You take away his ability to breathe, to move freely, to think straight.
And that's where the dirty fingers comes in.
Bingo. That mandible claw, it clamps down on the jaw, restricts airflow, and just wears the opponent down.
I mean, it looks excruciating.
It is, and that's why it's so effective. It's a psychological weapon as much as a physical one.
So Fingers, he's not just a brawler, he's a strategist.
Oh, he's thinking several steps ahead. He's analyzing his opponents, finding their weaknesses, and exploiting them.
Like a chess player in the ring.
Exactly, and it makes him a very dangerous champion.
Someone to watch out for, that's for sure. But speaking of dangerous, let's shift gears for a bit and talk about the Elite.
Ah, yes, the reigning champions of MATB.
Still holding on to those titles, still racking up points like it's nobody's business.
They're a force of nature, I'll give them that.
Huh.
But you know what they say about being at the top?
It's lonely.
It can be, sure. But it's also a very precarious position to be in.
Because everyone's gunning for you, right?
Exactly. The pressure is immense to stay on top, to maintain that dominance, to keep those championships.
And let's not forget the internal conflicts that can arise within a faction, especially one as successful as the Elite.
Oh, those egos can clash, those alliances can crumble, and that can be their downfall.
Especially in MATB, where backstabbing and betrayals are practically a national pastime.
It's a dog-eat-dog world in that federation. And you can bet that the other factions, the Niceties, the Cabessers, the Purifiers, the Militia, the Deleters, they're all watching, waiting for any sign of weakness from the Elite.
Yeah, they're like sharks circling, sensing blood in the water.
And then you have DMP to consider. He's coming off that tough loss to Fingers, and he's not used to being on the losing end.
He's got a lot to prove, that's for sure. And speaking of proving yourself, we got to talk about Marcho Madness.
Oh, yeah, the tournament that can make or break careers?
9 tournaments, 64 superstars, all vying for glory.
It's a grueling test of skill, endurance, and just plain old luck.
And the best part is you never know who's going to come out on top.
That's right, it's anyone's game.
We could see a rookie shock the world or a seasoned veteran reclaim their former glory.
It's the unpredictability that makes it so exciting.
And for the wrestlers, it's a chance to prove themselves on a grand stage, to etch their names in wrestling history.
Like we were saying earlier, it's reminiscent of the old territory days, when wrestlers would travel from region to region, battling for supremacy.
Yeah, it was like a proving ground, a constant test of their abilities.
And the fans loved it. They got to see the best of the best, all under one roof.
And Marcho Madness has that same energy, that same sense of excitement and anticipation.
We could be witnessing the birth of new legends.
Okay, but before we get too carried away with Marcho Madness, let's switch gears for a moment and talk about the women's division.
Oh, right, because there was some big news over at QLW.
Yeah, Danger Boys captured the QLW championship.
What a match that was. They were on fire.
They've got this incredible energy, this raw power that's just captivating to watch.
And their tag team chemistry is off the charts.
They're a force to be reckoned with, that's for sure. And, we can't talk about the women's division without mentioning Spectre, Veronique, and Arai.
Oh, they're trailblazers. Absolutely.
They've elevated the level of competition and shown the world that women's wrestling is just as exciting and athletic as the men's division.
They're role models, they're athletes, they're storytellers, they're inspiring a whole generation of young fans.
And it's great to see how much the women's division has grown and evolved over the years.
It's no longer an afterthought. It's a vital and integral part of the wrestling world.
And with wrestlers like Danger Boys, Spectre, Veronique, and Arai leading the charge, the future of women's wrestling is incredibly bright.
It's an exciting time to be a fan, that's for sure.
But you know what else is exciting?
What's that?
This whole NXG versus MATB rivalry.
Oh, yeah, we were talking about that earlier.
Remember NXG's performance at the MATB Royal Rumble?
How could we forget? They crashed the party and stole the show.
It was a statement, a declaration of war.
They were like Vikings raiding a coastal village, just wreaking havoc.
And the MATB crowd was not happy about it.
Oh, you could feel the tension in the air. The boos were deafening.
But the NXG wrestlers, they fed off that energy. They embraced the hate.
They showed the world they weren't afraid of MTB, that they were here to compete, to challenge the established order.
And it was a turning point in this rivalry. It took things to a whole new level.
Now we're talking about a potential invasion angle, cross-promotional events, the blurring of lines between these two federations.
And the fans, we're the ones who benefit from all this.
Absolutely. We get to see the best wrestlers from both worlds collide. We get to witness dream matches. We get to be a part of wrestling history.
And you know what else is fueling this rivalry?
What's that?
Social media.
Oh, yeah. Social media has become an extension of the wrestling world, a way for the storylines to continue outside the ring.
It's like a 24/7 soap opera.
Exactly. We get these behind-the-scenes glimpses into the lives of the wrestlers, their feuds, their rivalries, their friendships.
It blurs the lines between reality and kayfabe, and it keeps us fans engaged and invested.
It's a brilliant strategy, and it's working like a charm.
And with this NXG versus MPB rivalry heating up, I can only imagine the kind of social media fireworks we're going to see in the coming weeks.
Oh, it's going to be epic.
So buckle up, wrestling fans, because things are about to get wild. We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we'll dive even deeper into this NXG versus MTB rivalry and explore the potential ramifications for the future of wrestling.
Stay tuned.
All right, so NXG at the MTB Royal Rumble. I mean, this is a huge moment.
Yeah, you could feel the energy shift when those NXG guys hit the ring.
It was like they were invading enemy territory.
And the NATB fans, they let them know they weren't welcome.
Oh yeah, those boos were deafening.
But the NXG guys, they didn't back down. They fed off that negative energy. They used it to fuel their performance.
It was electric. You could tell this was more than just a match. It was a statement.
Exactly. NXG was putting MATB on notice. They were here to stay, and they weren't afraid of anyone.
And it got me thinking, about the Monday Night Wars back in the day. WCW versus WWF.
Ah, yeah, the golden age of wrestling rivalries.
Their WCW, they were the upstarts, the rebels trying to shake up the establishment.
And they did it by being bold, by taking risks, by bringing in big names like Hulk Hogan and Scott Hall.
And creating that NMU faction, which was just a game changer.
It captured the imagination of the fans. It gave them something different, something exciting.
And I see some of that same energy, that same rebellious spirit in NXT.
Oh, absolutely. They're not afraid to push the boundaries, to challenge the status quo.
And their performance at the Royal Rumble, that was their way of saying, we're here, we're not going anywhere, and we're coming for you, MATB.
It was a shot across the bow, a declaration of war.
And you know what? I think this rivalry is good for both federations.
I agree. It pushes them to be better, to be more creative, to deliver those must-see moments that keep the fans coming back for more.
Just like the Monday Night Wars, it raises the bar for everyone.
And the fans are the ultimate winners because they get to witness this epic clash of titans.
Speaking of epic clashes,
Yeah.
social media has become a whole other battleground for these guys.
Oh, yeah. Social media is like an extension of the wrestling world now. The storylines, the feuds, the trash talk, it all spills over into the digital realm.
It's a 204/7 soap opera.
Exactly. And it's brilliant because it keeps the fans engaged even when the wrestlers aren't in the ring.
It blurs the lines between reality and kayfabe, and it makes the whole experience so much more immersive.
And with this NXG versus MATB rivalry heating up, I can only imagine the kind of social media mayhem we're going to see.
Oh, it's going to be wild. But at the end of the day, wrestling is all about entertainment.
It's about storytelling, athleticism, and those larger-than-life characters.
It's about escaping from reality for a few hours and immersing yourself in a world of drama, excitement, and pure spectacle.
And whether you're a die-hard fan or a casual viewer, there's something about wrestling that just captures the imagination.
It's a unique blend of sport and entertainment, of athleticism and artistry.
And it's constantly evolving, constantly finding new ways to surprise and delight the fans.
And that's what keeps us coming back for more. The unpredictability, the passion, the sheer spectacle of it all.
So if you're looking for a wild ride, a roller coaster of emotions, then look no further than the world of professional wrestling.
Because as we've seen in this deep dive, anything can happen, and it usually does.
So stay tuned, keep your eyes peeled, and never underestimate the power of a good wrestling storyline.
And on that note, we'll wrap things up here. Thanks for joining us for another deep dive into the wild world of wrestling.
Until next time, keep it real, keep it exciting, and keep on wrestling.